Gopi Jana Vallabha Shivardhari Yasodanandana Bhajanarajana Yasodanandana Bhajanarajana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yaya Radhamadava Kunja Bihari We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, entitled Purusha Shukta Confirmed. Today we're doing text number 9 and text number 10. Text number 9. Payur Yamasya Mitrasya Parimokshasya Narada Himsaya Niriter Nrityor Nirayasya Gudam Smrita Payuyavasya Mitrasya Parimokshasya Narada Himsaya Nritir Mirtyo Nirayasya Gudam Smrita Payu, the evacuating outlet. Yamasya, the controlling deity of death. Mitrasya, of Mitra. Parimokshasya, of the evacuating whole. Narada, O Narad. Himsaya, of envy. Nrite, of misfortune. Mritya, of death. Nirayasya, of hell. Gudam, rectum. Smritam, it's understood. Can't get much worse than that, can it? Translation. O Narad, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating whole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc. This is so prolific, I'll get everybody to repeat this after me. Really awesome. O Narad, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating whole and the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc. There is no purport to this, so we'll move on to the next sloka, number 10. Paribhuter dharmasya tamasascha pipaschima nadyo nadanadinam cha gotra namasti samhati. Translation. The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In order to defy the impersonal conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a systematic analysis of the physiological and anatomical constitution of his transcendental body is given here. It is clear from the available description of the body of the Lord, his universal form, that the form of the Lord is distinct from the forms of ordinary mundane conception. In any case, he is never a formless void. Ignorance is the back of the Lord, and therefore the ignorance of the less intelligent class of men is not separate from his bodily conception. Since his body is the complete whole of everything that be, one cannot assert that he is impersonal only. On the contrary, the perfect description of the Lord holds that he is both impersonal and personal simultaneously. The personality of Godhead is the original feature of the Lord, and his impersonal emanation is but a reflection of his transcendental body. Those who are fortunate enough to have a view of the Lord from the front can realize his personal feature, where those who are frustrated and are thus kept on the ignorant side of the Lord, in other words, those who have the view of the Lord from the back, realize him as in his impersonal feature. So, Durga me parimendasya skala pateka tirmahu svakvipa yustadanana shanta lambanam Mukam karori vachalam pangam langate girim yatkripatam aham bande shiguru tirutarine omikina timrandasya jananjana salakaya chaksuru nilitam yena tasmahe shri guruve namaha. So very, very prolific verse here. We're down to, we're still describing the universal form of the Lord, and as we can see, everything is covered in this form here. So why is that? Because the Lord, he can never be classified, anything that's the creation of the Lord can never be classified as a formless void. Everything is there. So for the living entity, there's different stages of this realization, God realization. So basically we have the first stage of God realization is that when we are born and we wake up and we have to come to some platform of understanding why we're here. That's the first stage. So we have to ascertain there is a God. So this can be done even if nobody tells you that there is a God, which is happening a lot in these days and age. I'd like to maybe ask whose parents told them that a God existed. No, a lot that don't even sort of worry about it. So in the first stage we have to ascertain there's a God. So we can just simply observe and understand that there is a order that's beyond us. Just looking at ourselves, how we grow, how our nails grow, how everything just sort of grows beyond our control, how our body is functioning automatically, even though we like to be in control of the body, still nature happens within our body. It's beyond our control. And we just observe nature around it. Around us, it's easy to see the existence of a superior intelligence. There's so many examples. I'd just like to give one example of anybody who grows vegetables and flowers in the garden. You just study that and you can appreciate that you've got a small little seed that you put in the soil, and you give a little bit of water to the soil, and eventually the seed will sprout, give you leaves, flowers, bees. They come and they pollinate the flowers, and then you have fruit, and then or vegetables or whatever, and within that fruit and vegetables then you have millions of other little seeds where you can continue the process. So if everything is done right, then there is an abundance. For anybody who knows that they've grown veggies in the garden, Doesn't matter how little you grow, there's always more than you can eat. There is an abundance. The Lord has created this. So you think about this, that this is a high intelligence, this is beyond, all I have to do is put the seed in and all the rest happens. So this is called intelligent design. And then if we follow a certain process, then we know that we plant in a certain season at a certain time, and then the plant will grow, and certain veggies or flowers grow at different times of the year, and there's certain nutrients for the soil. All is there, all this is catalogued. So we usually get this knowledge of someone who's already familiar with this knowledge they've got from somewhere. And so we see that there is a plan. That's God's plan. And that plan is there for purpose of sustaining human beings. So what is the purpose behind all this? Just to grow veggies and eat? No, that's God for us, God's plan for us to know what our purpose in life is and to sustain us. So if we really want to know what the purpose is, we look it up in the Bhagavad Gita. I recommend you read the Bhagavad Gita scrutinisingly. So for those that appreciate nature, we see a plan, and there we have the universal form of the Lord. It's for those, for that stage of realisation that everything that is there, from the seed to the tree to nature, it's all there. Everything is encompassed with the universal form. So we've been studying this in this chapter, so we see that the form of the Lord, even though it's equated to human beings, still is not quite the same as Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport here. So we have different parts of the Lord. So I'll just sort of really just recap quickly so we can get the concept of the universal form. So as I said, that the mouth piece, it was the center of the voice, and there was a controlling deity, fire. The tongue was different foodstuffs to be offered to the demigods, to please the demigods. The skin, anybody know what the skin was? The generating center of Vedic hymns, nostrils for breathing, fragrance and medicinal herbs. The eyeballs were the sun, heavenly planets. Ears, receptacle for the Vedas. So senses was skin. Hairs was a very good one. It was the vegetation and trees for sacrifice. And hairs on the face were the reservoir for clouds to pour rain. And then we have the nails, the last one. They were the elements, like iron and whatever that you can make for utensils for sacrifice. So we can see that actually within this form, this universal form, which we call the Virat Rupa, the whole universe is encompassed. But the purpose of this Virat Rupa is that we offer respect to the Lord at every stage of the Lord's, at every limb and function of the Lord. The purpose is to offer sacrifice to the Lord. And then we have this abundance, that everything works on time, that the earth produces so much wealth, and we can live a very, very happy life in conjunction with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now we come to this sloka here, where not only within this universal form, like all these wonderful things are there, but the three modes of material nature are there also within the universal form of the Lord. So therefore we are come to the part where death is there. So death is death and emotions, they're all a part of it there. So we have the evacuating hole that we're discussing here, the rectum, and always that, so in this particular instance, within the universal form, there is the association of bad qualities in that area. So we have envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc. They're all got to be there. It's got to be somewhere, because everything is there within the universal form of the Lord. And still it is that form. So therefore, for those who want to appreciate nature so much, take nature in its whole encompassing form, that everything is there, not only just meditating under the tree and seeing a brook, but actually seeing the whole air that we breathe. That's the Lord through our nostrils, what we see, all the visions, all the planets, everything is there with the Lord. So the ignorance is there too. So in the next sloka we're talking about the back of the Lord, the back of the universal form. So that is a place where it's a voidist place. It's just like equated with impersonalism. Just like ourselves sometimes in our dealings, that if we turn our back on someone, it's a sign of disrespect. Like you're talking to someone, how does it feel when someone turns your back on you and walks away? So that's the same with the Lord, that we've turned our back on the Lord at some point in time, and we've ended up in this universe where we don't have to actually associate with the Lord according to our will. If we don't want, it's perfectly fine, but we have to associate with the three modes of material nature, and we get bounced around birth after birth. Similarly, when we come into the temple, we always pay our respects to the spiritual master, and we never show our back to the Prabhupada unless in the circumstances where we're having arti or whatever, but generally we are mindful of not having our back to the spiritual master. So this is the universal form. So we show so there's the back to the Lord, that's equated with impersonalism. So even though we've somehow or other forgotten the Lord, worse still is that when we see the existence of a higher intelligence, we don't give credit to that person who's created that. So we see this high intelligence and say, hey, we're all part of this. We're part of this creation. We're God, but we've just become unmanifest from God for a moment. We're just under the influence of the three modes. When we get over it, hey, then we're going to go back up there again, and we're going to be one with the Lord. We're going to become God. So that is a complete slight of the Supreme Person of God, and that is the most. That is the worst one. So many Shastras said that those people who deny the existence of God, their future is very, very dark. So Srila Prabhupada equates here in the purport that we have the back and the front of the universe. So everything is there. So we've discussed the impersonalists. But within with universal form, not only do we have all the objects, but we have the time element too. We have past, we have the present, and we have the future. That is all there in the supreme absolute truth of the universal form. So when Arjuna asked to see the universal form in which chapter of the Bhagavad Gita was it again? 11th chapter. So Krishna, did he say, are you sure you want to see the universal form? Because actually when he showed this universal form as a ferocious form, he showed all the planets at once. I know scientists like to look out at one planet and the galaxies. What if you see them all at once coming towards you? The past and the present and the future all just swallowed up, all the different generations of man. And then Krishna also showed Arjuna the battle of Kurukshetra. All the soldiers were being swallowed up in this horrible sort of gigantic jaws of time, just being scrunched, and he saw all his relatives and friends all being totally annihilated. So he said, Krishna, I've seen enough. Please go back to your original form. So this is an amazing form of the Lord that is there. So the back is there for those who can't see the Lord, and the front is there for those who can. It was very interesting that fact, Nick picked that little piece out of the Namam reader that we read in the morning about the fact that those who want to see the Lord have to have the eyes to see. So Prabhupada was saying, people place their faith on mortal eyes so much that if we can't see anything, then it doesn't exist, right? So therefore we can't see God. Therefore God doesn't exist. But Prabhupada explains that in the Brahma Samhita it says, Premanjita Chuito Bhakti Vilochena, that we need the eyes to be tinged with the salve of love to see the Lord. So we need to actually have faith and surrender to the fact that the Lord exists and then the Lord will reveal himself. So for those who choose to see the Lord like that, he will reveal himself. That is the front of the universal, the Purusha Tattva form of the Lord. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes these stages. Canto 1, chapter 2, verse 11. Vidanti tattva vidas jnanam yad jnanamadhyam brahmati param atmeti bhagavaniti subjate. That the learned transcendentalist who has have knowledge of the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance, this eternal substance, the soul, Brahman Paramatmiyam, Brahman Paramatmaram Bhagavan, Brahmati Paramatmati Bhagavan, subjate. So that's the three stages. So the Brahman realization is the impersonalist, the impersonal realization. It's the first stage of realization. A lot of people talk about becoming the oneness, the supreme, the light, the shining truth, but there's no form. So that they're talking about Brahman realization, whatever realization they have about Brahman realization. So that's described easily by this example of a mountain. So we'll take Mount Warning, the one we know the best. So I was coming back from Cabarita yesterday, Cabarita Beach, chanting my rounds, japa, and when you turn a corner just at the sugar mill, you see this beautiful outline of Mount Warning, all the blue mountains and the shining sky. And that's what you see. You see the beauty in that, the landscape. So you just see this blue mountain, right? Then when you get a bit closer, you go past Mawullumba, you come up Chelgam Road, you see, oh, this mountain's got a shape. You can almost see the trees, or shapes of trees. You see the river running through. And then that's the second stage of realization. You see that the mountain's got a form, it's got shape, it's got objects on it. And then when you come closer to the mountain and you're actually in the mountain, you see that you're in amongst all the different variegated forms of life. There's birds and animals and people, and there's a whole lot of action there. So that is the third stage of realization. So that is compared to Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So impersonal realization is just sort of see the abject void and you say, oh, that's very nice, without actually going onto the higher level. So the Lord, seeing the Lord within this, the Lord is within this creation. So we see the Lord, but is also outside of this creation. So if we understand that nature, that we're of this superior nature, we're not of this material world, but we've been come over by these layers of material energy, and we're dealing with it, and we're seeing this form of the Lord that He's created this energy for us. But if we go beyond it, then we understand the spiritual nature of the Lord, that we're parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So at this point in time, I would like to finish this part of the lecture and just say that today is a special day. It is the anniversary of the incorporation of ISKCON New York in 1966. So it is a very, very relevant day today because it means that ISKCON is 55 years old. And so that's very, very relevant. And the other relevant bit, which is really, really amazing, that one of the trustees 55 years ago who Srila Prabhupada put on that piece of paper was none other than our own Mukunda Maharaj. And Mukunda Maharaj is the surviving trustee. The others have become obscure a very, very long time ago. And so we understand that Mukunda Maharaj we're very fortunate to have him because he's such a great soul, and it's always said that wherever the great soul resides, it's a place of pilgrimage in itself. So it's a very important chapter of our history. It's very elaborately described by Satsarup Goswami in his lifetime, in his books about Srila Prabhupada. What's the general... Lilamrita, yeah. So it's in the second volume called Planting the Seeds. Planting the Seed, nice time to read that today. I'll just make a few comments about this. That Srila Prabhupada, in his far-sightedness, when he incorporated ISKCON earlier on, much earlier on than that, he had a vision for a society of devotees that came about in 10 years before he came to New York, when he went to this place called Jhansi, and he got a really big building given to him for his use. So he formed a group called the League of Devotees. So he wanted to unite all the devotees, the Vaishnavas, have a Sangha, and from then just spread his mission of Krishna consciousness. But unfortunately he lost the facility, and he moved to Vrindavan, and he focused on the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam and the printing of which he brought with him to New York. So Srila Prabhupada, he coined the term Krishna consciousness. It was first originally mentioned in Rupa Goswami's Pajavali, the word Krishna conscious. So it was a very important statement, because when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, we had God consciousness. So God consciousness is a very, very broad has a very broad meaning. As we were talking, as I was discussing earlier, you can become one with God. That's God conscious, or we're all gods. Sometimes the Hindus place their own picture on the altar, worship that too, because they're God. Is that right? You're laughing. Have you seen that before? You have seen that, yeah. So, place themselves. Others outrightly claim themselves to be gods. So in the 60s that happened a lot. There were a lot of gods around at that age, and Srila Prabhupada was very forthright in preaching as to their cheating propensities. So, and then at that point in time also there were so many Bhagavad Gitas that were written, but none of them actually clearly understood that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though in chapter 7 in the early verses, Krishna says, I'm the source of all creations, material and spiritual. Nothing is superior to me. Everything rests upon me like pearls are strung on the thread. But nevertheless, there were so many different interpretations. So that's why Srila Prabhupada considered of very paramount importance that he name his fledgling society the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And right in an early stage he focused on incorporating this name. He just had this wonderful storefront that he was given. I'll say wonderful because we still have it. It is wonderful in 26th Avenue. I haven't been there personally myself, but I know a few people have. Sri Hari Bhakti's been there. A place of pilgrimage, isn't it? And a tree in Tompkins Square Park, right? So they're wonderful places, and in that place it was just Mukunda Maharaj. He's got a very interesting talk about this whole episode. It's there on YouTube. You can look it up. It was for the 50th anniversary. Mukunda Maharaj talking about the incorporation of ISKCON, but he was saying that he actually helped Prabhupada move all his belongings to 26. To number 26 Second, or is it number 2, 26 Second Avenue? Yeah. Okay, so he helped move all his belongings there, and they were only there for a couple of months when Srila Prabhupada was working on this whole memorandum of this constitution, and there was some helpers there, Carl Jurgens, who knew this lawyer, Mike Goldsmith, who became fascinated with the concept that I'm going to start a religious institution here. So he helped Srila Prabhupada draft the constitution. And then one morning, just a few weeks after they've started the centre, Srila Prabhupada came up with this paper, was ready to go, and he said, I'm looking for some trustees. And it's just like, it's all these people sitting there just relishing Srila Prabhupada's association, hearing class and eating chapatis and puris and sabji afterward, and sort of having their taste sensations blown apart. And he said, I want someone to become a trustee. And they go, okay. You know. So, of course, Mukunda Maharaj was the first one he asked. And Mukunda, in his commentary, describes that he read through it, it seemed okay, but he really didn't understand the purport of what he was signing, that it was actually the incorporation of a new society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he describes it only sometime later that he understood that this is going beyond the storefront, where it's really nice to hear a class and have this association of a wonderful Swami, but it's actually a worldwide movement. So this is Srila Prabhupada's vision, that he always had that vision, and it was inspired by Krishna. And then, of course, within a short period of time on Srila Prabhupada's stay on this planet, we can see how this society just blossomed into what it is now. We just celebrated 50 years of the society a couple of years ago, and it was, how many years ago was it now? Time flies, doesn't it? So we can see how this has really started to take a foothold all around the world. I would like to read the 7 articles in the Constitution there. It's actually I've got a couple of minutes, so I'll just read the short paragraph here to do with the incorporation of ISKCON in New York. So, 55 years ago from today, in the year 1966, the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established its stronghold in the Western world in the form of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, taken there for the benefit of the conditioned living entities in that part of the world by His Divine Grace, they see Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Having travelled to New York in a cargo ship with next to no money, Srila Prabhupada set foot on the soil of America and changed the destiny of numerous people without their realising it. Despite having had 2 heart attacks on the ship voyage and nearly leaving his body, his spirits were not in the least dampened, as he carried with him in the core of his heart the instructions and desire of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Although seemingly penniless, he had with him the greatest treasure of all, the holy names of Krishna and transcendental literatures describing the name, forms, qualities and pastimes of Krishna. After endeavouring very hard and almost losing hope on a few occasions, in the year 1966, he was able to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master and the prophecy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by establishing ISKCON in New York. And from there, everything is history. With the help and support of his dedicated disciples, Srila Prabhupada preached and propagated Krishna consciousness throughout the world, establishing 108 temples and covering the entire globe 14 times, tirelessly taking the movement forward. Going around the world 14 times in 11 years. It's pretty awesome. While incorporating the institution, the following 7 explicit purposes of ISKCON were penned. Number 1, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of life, of values in life, and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Number 2, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna, God, as it is revealed in the great scriptures of India, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Number 3, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus developing the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is a part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. Number 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Number 5, to erect for the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai. To bring the members closer together. Number 6, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler, more natural way of life. Number 7, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books and other writings. Now, with 55 years having gone by, the movement has grown exponentially, with millions of people having become members of the society and regularly practicing the process of Krishna Bhakti and spreading the Sankirtan Yagya of Mahaprabhu, which is the only means of deliverance from the bonds of this material world of age of Kali. Numerous temples have been established in all the major cities and all major countries, and Vaishnavas can be found in every nook and corner of the globe. It is by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that the holy name of the Lord have reached all over the world, and it is His mercy that we pray for, so that we may be able to continue taking His mission forward with the utmost devotion, and in this way make our lives sublime. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any questions or comments? Off the hook. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.